Hi, good afternoon. This is Hank, Service Manager at Solid Performance. Today we're going to go over something that many of you may not know how to do correctly, but think you do. How to wash a motorcycle. We've got our new service writer in training, Tim Kearney's motorcycle here in front of us. Lovely KTM 300 two-stroke that he has ridden and not washed. We're going to go over some basics of how to prepare your motorcycle to wash it, and just some little tips and tricks that we like to do. I like to start by stripping the motorcycle down. For that, you're going to need a few tools, and to wash it, you're going to need a few tools as well. Starting with those, you're going to need a bucket. Doesn't have to be as dirty as this one, but it needs to be a bucket. Soap of your choice. This is a foam cannon we're going to attach to our pressure washer. You don't need that. You could just use some car soap or some Dawn dish detergent. Those both work well. Wash cover for your air filter. We'll go over how to use this. Plug for your exhaust. A little brush, a couple rags. Hydration. I got a 6mm, 8mm, T30, pair of pliers, and a pair of nippers. We're going to start by taking your gas tank off and then stripping some of the plastics off the motorcycle to get some nooks and crannies, and hopefully end up with a cleaner motorcycle than we started with. So, without further ado, we also have a little tray to keep all of our takeoff parts in. I use my little kangaroo pouches on my my apron here so I don't lose the stuff, but that works super well too. Start by taking your seat off your motorcycle, finding whatever seat screw you have. In this case, Tim has a single skewer running through the side of his seat. And take this off. I'm using a Torx T30 bit driver that takes off much of the hardware on the motorcycle. You can get most of your gas tank off and a lot of your body work by just using this. Oh, Timmy's stuck. Seat off, set this aside. You can wash it if you want, but it's going to fill up with water and that'll all drain out. We're not going to bother with the seat right now. I don't need the seat to be clean to work on your motorcycle, but I do need the motorcycle to be clean to work on it. Once we have this seat off, we're going to work at taking the tank off. Most of the motorcycles, if not all of them, have a central piece of hardware located in the tank. Again, handy dandy T30. We're going to take the screw out and the rubber bumper, put that in your tray or in your pouch. Coming around the front of the fuel tank, you've got two screws on either side of the tank fairings. We're going to pull them out, making sure not to lose the metal bushing that's pressed into the fairing. Oh, Tim's got pretty high torque on those. We anti-seize these screws and sometimes replace them with longer ones so they don't get screwed up taking them in and out. Going to repeat the same thing on the other side. Some of your dirt bikes that have a horn on the left, on the right side will have the one longer screw where that horn is. If this motorcycle had a horn, it would be this long screw that went through the horn bracket. Set all this aside, keeping it segregated so you know what goes with what. That's all the hardware we need to remove to get the gas tank off. From here, we're going to disconnect our electrical connector. On this motorcycle, it's on the right side. You have a small plastic tab you're going to lift up out of the way. This is the same connector used on all the fuel tanks, just in different locations of one place or another. I'm going to reach under here and find our fuel connection. Everyone has a quick disconnect on their fuel line. In this case, Tim has a brake pin clip put in the dry brake or quick disconnect. We've done this on many motorcycles that we've prepped to stop the errant stick from pushing the button and disconnecting your fuel line. So, should it not be packed with dirt, it's very simple to just push this button and then separate the two halves. You can see here, this is the female fuel tank fitting. You have a metal tab here that you press that button in and a locking pin. If while you're working on this pin is depressed, the switch will go into locked position. You can see how the hole does not line up with the sliding plate. Pushing that again, it should engage into place. We'll go over something with this in a little bit. So now our fuel tank is disconnected from both the electrical connection and the fuel connection. We're going to reach up, spread our fairings and lift it straight up on the gas tank. Look at us. We've already done something that most of you never do when you wash your motorcycle. We have a gas tank off. Set this aside somewhere where it's not going to get kicked or run over by someone in the driveway. See all the fun crud under there. So here we are. We're going to continue taking stuff off the motorcycle to make it easier to wash and make sure we don't have any issues. One of the plus sides of stripping your motorcycle to wash it is that you will notice damage to the motorcycle that you wouldn't notice had you not taken the plastics off of that. I don't know if Tim has anything broken on his bike, but we will find out as we dig into it. Headlight mask, we're going to set this aside. Again, on this bike, 2 rubber straps and a single plug in the back. It's very, very simple, leaving some of our harness exposed and some of the motorcycle as well. While we are up here, we might as well take Tim's front fender off. Look at all the dirt that's built up on the front fender. Some of these have drain holes in them, some of them don't. This is a little bit extra taking the fender off, but we might as well go over it in case it's something that people aren't familiar with doing. This is an aftermarket fender. You can see that it has a washer on the screw. That's not normal for a KTM standard fender. The washer and bushing are going to be built into the fender. Again, most of this stuff can be done with a T30 or what I have is an 8mm socket on the end of my drill right now. Reaching up underside, we have 2 more screws on the underside of the fender. Take this off, make sure we're not losing our hardware. Set this in your pile of plastics. All right, moving down the motorcycle, we're going to take some more plastics off the motorcycle. Don't be afraid, we're using the same tool we did up top, down below. Got 3 screws on either side of your fork legs. We're going to take these fork guards off. It's going to help us clean behind here. A lot of people have a lot of dirt packed in here. Looking at Tim's motorcycle, he has some aluminum fork guards to protect his lugs, his beautiful cone valves and DLC coated fork legs. He wants to do the best he can to make sure these don't get messed up, as well as the expensive lugs on the bottom of the bike. I'm going to set these to the side, or as I like to do, put them in my bucket of stuff to wash. Coming around to the left side of the motorcycle, we have to switch our 8 to a 6, but that is very brief. This is so we can take the hose guide off. This is an opportunity while you're working and washing your motorcycle to make sure that your brake line hose guide is in the right position. When you put this back together, we're going to force his brake line down into the correct bottom position of the fork guard. Make sure it isn't pulled up there, allowing it to be damaged as it's ridden. Put the screw back in or put it in your cup, whatever makes you not lose it. Move down to the bottom. We'll take off 3 more fork lug screws. Ooh, Timmy's got some damage to those threads. Again, we're finding problems before we even know it. So Tim has something here where maybe we have some threads that are missing or need to be repaired in the fork leg. You might not have known that. This could have just fallen off if you hadn't been taking them off to wash it. Set it in the bucket. We're going to take our frame guards off, and then we're going to work on taking our skid plate off. Let me grab my nippers, and we were going to cut the zip ties holding these on and then pull the hardware off. It's just a zip tie. It doesn't matter what color they are, what brand, just cut them off of there, throw them in the trash, throw them in your bucket, whatever you got to do. A lot of people don't take their fork guard or their frame guards off when they wash their motorcycle. This is something I believe is overlooked too often. Look, Tim's got a piece of limestone embedded in his foot peg that's destined to damage his frame. 1 screw, 2 zip ties. You're going to take the right side off. You can see under here all the dirt that's going to pack up. If you ride in a really abrasive environment like New Jersey and all the sandy places, depending upon where you ride, it all determines what's going to get stuck behind here. It can take a new motorcycle and turn it into something that's really looks very beat up very quick if you never take these off, because all the sand and dirt just builds up behind the frame guard and wears the paint off. Throw that in your bucket. Throw your piece of hardware in your pocket or in your tub. Go around the other side and take the other one off. All in all, this can be done very quickly. 2 screws on this model, an upper and a lower. Now our frame guards are off. We can clean the motorcycle. At the same time this frame guard is off, it's a very good opportunity to check the torque on your swing arm pivot when you are reassembling or putting it back together. Get the torque wrench out, get something out, make sure that's tight. Put your frame guard you took off in your bucket. We're going to fill that bucket with soap and scrub everything that's in it later. All right, let's see if we have the right tools to take this skid plate off. In this case, a 10mm, and hopefully not a 4, because this thing's just going to slide off and play easy with us. All right, pulling down, look at all the goodies left for your mechanic in your skid plate. Throw that in the bucket or in the pile. Segregate your hardware. All right, while we have our 10 on here, we're going to do Timmy a favor and take off this lower fork lug, because there's a lot of dirt packed in there, and we like Tim, so we're going to do him a favor. Set that aside in your pile or your bucket. All right, coming to the back, we're going to do something that most of you, even the best motorcycle washers, we're going to overlook. We're going to address our rear brake system. Looking at Tim's brake, we can see he rode in the mud. There's loads of stuff packed in here. We got leaves, sticks, lots of dirt. Well, we don't want that to stay in there. We don't want that to affect your braking. We don't want that to bind up your brakes. We want to know you have an issue before you actually have one. So we're going to take the brake pads out of this caliper before we wash the motorcycle. A little extreme, but after a mud race, this is something that's smart to do. We're going to spread the pads. This is something that you can also use when you need to field bleed your brakes. I'm going to take my knee, I'm going to press it into the caliper. Look how loose that is on there. Great. I'm going to take my pliers, I'm going to pull the pins out. Looks like Tim could use an upgraded pin on this. Oh yeah, come on. See, we want this to be easy when we actually have to do it if we have an emergency. We're going to set these aside. Now, we're going to remove the pivot pin for the pads just by pushing it inward. We take this pin out, our outside pad and our inside pad come out in our hand. There's a judder spring up in here. If we want to be real thorough, we're going to pull this out too. Very simple, right? We don't want to lose that on the driveway when we're power washing it. We take both our pads and our pin. We're going to set them in our tub or our bucket, not our wash bucket, but where we're setting all our hardware. Now we have a nice open brake system where we can see that this is moving freely back and forth. We can even take the caliper, make sure it's sliding on the pins, but we'll be able to wash all the dirt out of here and make sure nothing is wadded or packed up inside the brake caliper affecting your braking. In a perfect world, I would recommend you take the wheels off your motorcycle when you're washing it. Today we're not going to get into that. We'll get into that some other time and how to take your wheels on and off your motorcycle and install them correctly. So we have the motorcycle pretty fairly stripped. Got all our plastic off, we got our frame guards off. Not a bad idea to take your rubber tank protector off. This is something you want to maybe take notice of before you just yank this off like I was about to. This lower strap here is held on just by a little nipple here that runs through a slot on the other side, but it does kind of hold the wiring harness up nicely against the frame. These other two go over the tank bungs. They also keep your clutch cable and throttle cables on the right side of the bike in spec. But look at all the crap that's under here. This is again going to be a rub point. If you just let this stuff under here like a polishing compound, it's going to slowly wear away the paint on your frame. Take this, throw it in your bucket. All right, you can see that the motorcycle has lots of crap in it. There's a pile of mud on the fan. There's rocks on the cylinder head. There were rocks on the foot pegs. Before we actually get down to business with washing it, we're going to take our airbox cover off. Oh yeah, Tim's got a broken tab on his airbox cover. We're going to set this aside in our pile of plastics to wash. Before we spray it with water, we're going to put our wash cover on. The other option you have is to pull your air filter out, throw a Wawa bag or a shopping bag over top of this and reinstall it. That'll keep any water from getting past the air filter into the intake track. It's very important when you're riding your motorcycle or washing it that you don't get water past the air filter. You don't want water to get into your engine. So as we're pressure washing the motorcycle, we're going to pay special attention to where we point it. We don't want to point our pressure washer directly with high pressure at the throttle body, at any of the electrical components in general, but especially the more sensitive ones like fuel injectors, throttle bodies, etc. Other way that water can get in your engine is through your exhaust pipes. So we're going to put a plug in there as well. I'm going to put both of those pieces in place, and then we will lean the bike over and get washing. Not a bad idea to put some rubber gloves on if you don't want your hands to get all dirty. This plug works for 2 and 4 strokes. I'm going to stick it in the exhaust. Now we can go pretty ham on that thing and not worry about water getting in. Take our wash cover, set it aside. We're going to gently, carefully pull our air filter out, taking note how clean behind the air filter Tim's air plenum is. We have no dust or dirt in here. We have nothing building up in the intake tract. Good opportunity to take a clean towel or a flashlight at a minimum and look in here to make sure that it is staying squeaky clean. If you aren't doing a good job servicing your air filter and replacing it regularly, and you are finding dirt and debris on the clean side of the air filter, you need to change your habits and make sure that you're doing a better job maintaining this so that this looks clean. We have some tips further on about keeping the entirety of the air box itself clean, using some silicone spray or anything else that makes it easy to wipe any dust or dirt out. So with the air filter out, set this on top of the bike for now. Take our wash cover. They make these for pretty much every model. KTM makes them, aftermarket companies, Polysport, Cherubies, etc. We're going to snap that in place. We have some grease already on the plenum and on the airbox cover itself, so we're not going to worry about that too much. Tim doesn't use a lot of grease on his air filter, but that's sort of a personal preference that you'll find. So air filter is going to get set aside. This doesn't go in your bucket. This gets washed separately with specialty wash fluid. So we've set all our parts aside. Now it's actually time to put soap and water to the motorcycle. If you wanted to be extremely thorough, yes, there are more things you can take off your motorcycle. Like I stated earlier, the wheels. You can take your crash pad off your handlebars if you want to make sure that you're checking your handlebar torque before the next race. But all this stuff is more something that I would detail by hand as I was done washing the motorcycle outside and putting it in the garage, or if you're lucky enough to have a lift, putting it up on the lift. So we have our pressure washer turned on and ready. If you don't use a pressure washer, good for you. It's even better to wash your bike with soap and hose by hand. We're going to take our $20 Harbor Freight stand, whatever one you have, and we're going to set it next to the motorcycle. We're going to try and lean the bike down onto the stand. I'm not the best at this, but with it lined up right, we get our handguard on the stand, lay our motorcycle over. This isn't going to hurt it. I'm sure it's ended up this way plenty of times while you guys are riding it. So with it on its side, we're able to wash the underside of the motorcycle. Tim's skid plate did a pretty good job of keeping this bike clean. We're going to start with a rinse. This is a low pressure washer. We're looking about 1500 psi with this. Just going to give it a quick rinse from the underside, getting places that we don't normally get to see, underneath the triple clamps, bottom side of the fork lugs, paying special attention to the engine, the swing arm. Already we're blasting big chunks of dirt out of there. Like I said, Tim's skid plate does a really good job of keeping the underside of his motorcycle clean. But getting a view of the bike that you don't normally see as you're washing it can be really helpful in doing a good job. It's not a bad opportunity to wash the underside of the rear, get the back fender, mud flap, because you actually have a view of the dirt coming off, as opposed to when it's standing up and you're just trying to hit it with the pressure washer like that. Notice I'm not pointing the pressure washer directly at my oil fill. Good time to just put your hand on there, make sure that's snug, so we're not getting any water or soap in there. If you want to, you can pick this up, put the stand on the other side, and lean the bike over the other direction. We're going to forego that today. Now if you'd like, because we've washed the underside of the motorcycle, you can pop it up on a stand and do the rest. It's not a bad idea. Set the stand in the middle of the motorcycle, however you like to pick it up, place it on the stand. Now we can spin our wheels, we'll be able to wash inside of the hubs on both ends, wash your tires off, so when you roll it in the garage, you're not leaving a muddy mess, and it can look super nice when you're done. So we're just going to get this motorcycle wet now, rinse off the loose dirt, a big pile. Again, keeping a distance with the pressure washer from electrical components. You got your coil right here. We don't need that thing blasted too badly. Just getting the big chunks off. Keep my work area a little bit clean while I'm doing it. Front of the engine is another place where a lot of dirt packs up, but we want to be gentle. So right in here where my pressure washer tip is pointing, that's for your exhaust outlet. If you don't have fresh O-rings on your exhaust pipe, this is time to consider when the last time you changed them was, and consider putting new ones on. But we don't want to do high pressure water this close to that exhaust outlet because we don't want the water again to get in the engine. Before I said there was 2 places, there's 3, isn't there? The exhaust, both front and rear of the exhaust, and your air filter. So blasting from the front, work some of the dirt through the radiators. Again, getting some distance as we hit our electrical components, our throttle cables, and everything up top. Hitting our fork legs, getting in the pinching areas of the lower forks, working from the side, getting the dirt out of the front caliper. Again, this is just the first rinse before we use some soap. If your bike is dirty enough, no soap's going to get it clean. You're going to have to use elbow grease. You're going to have to wash it, get it soapy, get a microfiber towel, a scrub brush of your choice, and get in there, get intimate with your machine. Love it, touch it, get it wet and soapy, and really start to embrace this cleaning experience. So when you're done, you feel like you accomplished something and did a favor for something you love, and it'll love you back. Got the cannon hooked up. We're gonna suds this sucker, top to bottom. This is WR Performance products. We get them from Canada. They make really good air filter cleaner. They make some bitchin' soap. Like I said, the soap's only part of the job. The rest is up to you. So, with the soap on, it's not a bad opportunity to take a towel to your more dirty areas and give it a rub. So we let the soap sit there for a little bit. We got our hand towel in here. We've cleaned our critical areas that we really want to make sure are spotless when we bring them in for service with our towel. I'm going to pull the soap off of the motorcycle, or of the pressure washer. We're going to point this back at the bike and get all our suds off of there. Top to bottom. Rinse her off. Oh yeah. Again, working all the dirt out of those radiators. Again, I'm using a really low pressure washer. If you're using your gas powered one that you also clean patios with on the side, you want to stay further away from it than I am with this at sometimes. Little pro tip for the suspension team: you have a bump rubber on the shock. Tim's got a bitchin' pro component shock in here. If you can, you're going to want to get something to gently pry this bump rubber up. I should probably brought a tool out with me, but if you can gently pry this up on the shaft, you can wash under there, and most of them will have a way for that water and dirt and debris that's built up in that lower cup to come out of the shock there. That way you're not just building and building up all the debris, the coal dust, the dirt, the sand at the base of the shock there. Again, working that brake caliper, making sure we're getting all the dirt out of there. Give our wheel a spin. Hitting the underside. Hitting our air box pretty light with the air box. I'm not pointing that, not making that air filter cover work too hard. All right, motorcycle looks half decent. We have got a hypothetical bucket full of soap with all your plastic parts we've taken off sitting over there. The dirt's loosening up, waiting for you to grab your brush or your rag to clean that off before you put it back on the motorcycle. If your motorcycle came in as clean as this is right now for service, your techs would be happy. Your service writer wouldn't have to charge you extra before we did your service. You save some money, and you have some pride in your machine. When we were taking the gas tank off, we referenced a wash cap set. Anybody who's bought a brand new motorcycle from KTM, it should come with these two items. Okay, the one is for the fuel tank, the one is for the fuel line on the motorcycle. This small rubber boot goes over the male portion of the fuel line. Okay, that's going to keep water from getting in. It's going to keep your fuel filter from falling out. It's going to keep you from damaging this $10 O-ring. $10 fuel filter, $10 O-ring, that's $20 worth of stuff you can save by putting that cap on there. You take this piece, and before you pressure wash or hand wash your fuel tank, you can put it in the quick connector that we were speaking about. A little bit of grease on here, or put it in your mouth. This should be able to press inside that fitting for you and now protect your fuel line from your gas tank from getting damaged or getting any dirt and debris in there should you be washing it aggressively or setting it down in the dirt. Have fun. Wash your motorcycle regularly. This is Hank from Solid Performance. If you have any questions, send us a comment, like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.